All right, here's 5 good rules for parenting your wrestler. This does not pertain to a lot of us. To some of it, it probably does. Number 1, their wins and losses have nothing to do with you. Their success is their success. Their failure is their failure. If they win, you did not win. If they lost, you did not lose. You're the parent. It's like my dad used to say, when we were kids, people would come up and congratulate him. And he always said, oh, don't congratulate me. Go over there and congratulate them. Those are the boys that did all the work. All I do is encourage them and write the checks. And he's pretty funny. He would even say, hey, you see this gut? He goes, I can't run 100 yards, much less 5 miles. I didn't do nothing today. I just sit here and watched. The boys are right over there. Go congratulate them yourself. And totally removing himself was very smart. And I think a lot more of us need to do that as parents. A good philosophy, a family philosophy should be this. Son or my daughter, we have a lot of girls wrestlers nowadays. Even in our rooms, it's pretty awesome. There's some good ones too. We didn't lose, we learned. And if you take that we don't lose, we learn approach, now you're approaching the wins and losses from an intelligent mindset rather than with emotion. You shouldn't react to wins and losses with emotion. It should be more of an intellectual type of a response. And if you can do that, I think that's going to be huge. Plus, you're teaching your kid not to fear losing, not to panic. They're going to avoid getting good. Sometimes the kids who get really good, I just had a conversation with a guy today. I'm waiting. There's a little delay before the next session starts. And I was like, if you hold on to where you are in your wrestling career, 6 months from now, you're going to be the same spot. You have to learn to kind of not fear losing. So sometimes when we as parents, we react with emotion, we're scaring our kids into staying in their same spot rather than, growing their wrestling and evolving. So we don't lose, we learn. Plus, then whenever you lose a match, instead of reacting with emotion, you're more likely to get a pen and a piece of paper and write down and evaluate your wins and losses and see what you can do. Now, there's a good saying. It says, technique doesn't solve a mental problem or an attitude problem. So, it might be your son or daughter didn't lose because it was a move. Maybe it was something else. And also, it's very important, especially for kids. Sometimes you're not ready. As a weightlifter, I might not be ready to bench press 200 pounds. But if I can go into the weightlifting competition today and bench press 188 when my other past result was 185, I got better. So sometimes I used to have a dad who say, hey, what did my son do wrong? I go, didn't do anything wrong. That kid's wrestled 6 years. Your son's a second-year wrestler. He has a different feel. Don't worry about it. Now, if there was a little issue I could help him with, I would just certainly do that. But it's always not like, if I lost, I did something wrong. It's not always like that. You don't have the instincts. An insurance salesman who's been at it for 30 years is probably going to be better than the insurance salesman who's been at it for 30 days, even though the guy with 30 days might have a fancy business degree from Harvard or something. Kid, you don't have the feel out there. Do your best. It's going to be a couple years. Follow my lead, I'll help. Otherwise, and we have that in wrestling too. Sometimes they're just not ready to beat certain kids, and you have to recognize that. Filter. This is number 3. Our kids filter things differently. I can tell one of my athletes something or coaching advice. They take it as, that is advice from Nick. When you say it as a dad, the same thing, the same tone, they take it as criticism. So sometimes it's not the parent or the dad that's doing anything wrong. It's the kid who filters everything as criticism. And in that case, you have to recognize that and remove yourself. You're the 30-year-old. You're the 40-year-old. Leave. Let the coaches coach your your athlete. And now if you do know wrestling, like I know wrestling, I'll just text Kevin or something and say, hey, I noticed this with Ty. I'll text him or talk to him a little bit, but sometimes it's good just if your son has those issues or daughter, go around them to the coach and say, hey, please do this. We're gonna meet early. Can you have him hit 10 side lifts or 20 side lifts before practice? This is an issue this weekend. I can't talk to him about his matches. So then you go around your athlete to the coach. They're like, sure, I'll take care of it. And that way you're sort of just bypassing them. That's pretty good too. Number 4, understand that there are styles involved with wrestling. Too often parents, they say, my son doesn't wrestle aggressively or he or she isn't explosive or fast. What can we do? And, I remember Kendall Cross doing a camp for us years ago. He was the Olympic champion. You don't get much better than that. And he said, I got tired of all the coaches as a kid trying to make me wrestle explosive, and I can't. I'm not an explosive person. I don't have that kind of athleticism. Some people's bodies are made for sprinting. Some people's bodies are made for running marathons. A marathon runner probably is not going to be a good sprinter. A sprinter probably won't be a very good marathon runner. So they pick a sport that fits their type of athleticism. And wrestling, we're all on the mat at the same time. That's the reason I can't stand it when people say we wrestle Oklahoma State style or we wrestle Iowa style or Penn State or Minnesota style. You really can't do that. Those schools can hand pick and choose national champion and state champion athletes who already fit their mold, and they plug them in. You don't see a big style approach when you look at the other famous colleges. They take everybody. Well, that's the way it is with your athlete. So, if your athlete doesn't wrestle a certain way, a lot of it might just be because a short, powerful kid is going to wrestle differently than a tall, skinny kid. Also, remember, your style of wrestling is also a lot to do with your personality type. We don't talk about that very much in wrestling. If your athlete is has a different personality than someone else, or even you. I know people say, oh, I wish my son, had my personality. They don't. Drop it, right? It's just not going to happen. You can hope that a apple tree will grow pears or a pear tree will grow apples. It won't. So give up and say, this is my son or daughter, this is my athlete. If you're educated in wrestling, and maybe sometimes people are coached, but they don't really know enough about wrestling. They're just doing more damage. So educating yourself a little bit about these things is important. But the whole styles thing, my son's phenomenal, but he wrestles way different than I did. But I could recognize that because I was on some great teams in college, and I saw some great NCAA champions who wrestle differently than the other Olympic champions or NCAA champions, and your kids are no different. So understand that there's different styles. The last thing, number 5, is understand that the odds are against them. If they have a goals of being a high school state champion, there are Olympians who never won a high school state title. It's difficult. Look at Missouri in Class 4. Certainly being a state champ in Indiana or California is harder than being a state champ in Kentucky or Arkansas. It just is. But understand, that they have these goals of being NCAA champion in college. I mean, that's a decade away, 2 decades away. There's a lot of things can happen between then. So stay in the present. Worry about this week's tournament or match, and help your son and daughter to have goals. But we have to focus on right now and understand that, the odds are against them. We're going to do everything we can to see to it that our kid gets a chance to wrestle at one of these great colleges and get all the fancy money and stuff, but the odds are really against them, and be okay with that. So that way you're not there should not be a lot of emotion involved. And so your son or daughter's success is not your success or failure. A good philosophy: we don't lose, we learn. We're taking an intellectual approach to our successes and failures. And even when I win, I should learn. So you won that match, but you were reaching with your attack hand. You should be keeping your attack hand guarding. You made contact. You came up. We had a kid just yesterday. He beat a kid who's going for his 4th state title, and he beat a kid who was a state runner-up last year. And our kid Tyler just beat him. But after he had this great tournament and got first, and I was like, hey, that's a great win. Now notice how so-and-so got to your legs. You weren't wrestling aggressively from a defensive stance. You were wrestling aggressively from an open stance. We call it a basketball stance, and he raised up. So even in his great victories and unbelievable tournament and wins, we found reasons, little things to correct, So, but I don't lose, I learn is just a wonderful philosophy to take. The filter, your kids filter what you say differently than the way they would if I said it. Deal with it. All right? Deal with it. Remove yourself if you have to. You probably will. Styles, there's different styles of wrestling. Recognize that, and don't get frustrated because your kid has a different personality or a wrestling style than you had or than the other kids on the team. I guarantee you, if John Smith wrestled like Tom Brands, he probably would not have been Olympic champion. If Tom Brands wrestled like John Smith, he probably would not have been Olympic champion. They're both Olympic champs. They picked a way to wrestle that fit for them, and they got very good at it. And so that's just the facts. And the odds are against your kids accomplishing the goals of being NCAA champ or Olympian, or even winning a high school state title is very difficult. And just understand that it's a long, difficult road and take the emotions out of it. So there's some good advice. Hopefully that will help some people. Some of you don't need it. Some of you do. I've been there myself.